That's a nice little morning snack. Hello, my friends. Bom dia. I'm talking to you from Alcobaça in Portugal, Silver Coast region. It's very nice here. Having some agua pedras. This is a nice sparkling water. Pastel nata, which is a beautiful little custard cake that's gorgeous. Of course, it's windy, so this thing is blowing. But anyway, yeah, it's too windy. Holy cow. So yeah, I was watching a documentary, The Long Road to War, about World War I on Netflix. And it's so interesting because so much of all the gamesmanship and the realpolitik and the rivalries between the kings and the leaders, you know, Serbia, the whole greater European region, and the Russia and Germany not wanting to fight a two-front war, so they figured they had to attack either France or Russia. Everybody worried about some other state getting stronger, you know. Either you bribed the states, you traded with them amicably, or you went to war. And it's so reminiscent of everything we do today, right? And the arms race is really interesting because, you know, new guns, new battleships, dreadnoughts, and everybody feels compelled to you know, match the other state. So it's this kind of competition. Everybody has their really nice uniforms on, and their traditions and their national pride and their kings and all that shit. And from the 1870s onward, it's just it's just a constant march to war. There doesn't seem to be any way that anyone can stop it. It just seems inevitable. It's a matter of time. You know, what's the right time to go to war? And I guess it was not too hard to convince people of a certain class or of certain classes to go to war, to become cannon fodder for the whatever, the cause. Of course, World War I was a catastrophe, and that led to catastrophe in between World War I and World War II, and then the catastrophe that was World War II. It just seems like it's in our nature to have these kind of conflicts, which is unfortunate. I don't think it necessarily has to be that way forever. But yeah, if you're going to go back to a trad thing and an ultra right-wing thing where you're conserving some particular state of affairs, way of doing things, and culture, and you're kind of working like, what are the new ways that we're going to enforce that? We're going to use social media as propaganda platforms, as we are today, to enforce morals, ethical values, and so on, social values. It just goes round and round, you know. One side gets too woke, everybody hates that. The other side gets too ultra right-wing, maybe fascistic. A lot of people won't stand for that. In the meantime, the players, you know, are the same kind of players they were 100 years ago or 200 years ago. They're the wealthy or the aristocrats or the, you know, kings and queens, the big business conglomerates, the big you know, East India, blah, 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 British Empire type thing. Yeah, it's hard enough to organize my thoughts talking to this little camera without getting distracted by all the technical elements, which I shouldn't worry about anyway. But if I were super intelligent, it wouldn't matter. I watch some guys that just hold their phone up and talk for a half hour, and they're extremely interesting. Anyway, it all looks so familiar, right? So now we're in this thing in Europe, and who knows where it'll lead, but anyway, never mind all that. It's interesting to revisit these historical narratives, and that documentary is fantastic because the archival footage is brilliant. It's beautiful, and it really gives you a sense of how things looked back then, which I find fascinating. So that's good, but there's a lot of good World War I historical, documentaries and series and films and so on that are interesting to look at and think about. So I guess we can't really do anything but this kind of thing, so go figure, Is it going to be left-wing extremism or right-wing extremism that kills us? And at the end of the day, it's just about oligarchical power anyway. And, all sides being more than willing to kill everybody to stay in power. And yeah, they convince themselves they're true believers in what they're doing. It gives their life meaning. And so I'm also reading Carlyle, his book on heroes. So he's talking about Odin now. It's quite interesting. And these narratives really do motivate people, heroic narratives. We just need that stuff. So professionals know how to use that for limbic hijacking and for getting us addicted to certain kind of brain chemistry hits. And they use that to manipulate us. We should know it, but even if we do, we don't care because we're just comfortable in that state of excitement, hyperstimuli. And yeah, the hyper agents are hyperstimulating us. Sounds pornographic, doesn't it? But we're helpless. So we're doing this World War I dance all over again, and have been doing it for quite a while. So like the 1870s to 1914, it's similar. I mean, we've been doing this little thing with Russia for a long time, even after the Berlin Wall went down. Can't let go of the conflict, have to play these games. Right now, everything's really pretty good for most people in the West, but it isn't guaranteed to last forever. So there could come a time when it falls apart, which would be a shame. But in the meantime, all of us continue on with our plans and do the best we can. I don't think our leaders know jack shit about World War I or history, and if they did, they don't care. They know they're making the same moves and same mistakes all over again, but it's so lucrative for them. They make so much money doing it, and they get so much attention, and they get to play in the club and wear the nice outfits like those guys in World War I leading up to it in the late 19th, early 20th century. Man, they are dandies. Top hats and really fancy mustaches, they're all looking really good. They're styling. All the conflicts that were going on all around Europe at the time. So yeah, you want to talk about the West, Western civilization, eating itself alive, murdering itself at scale, and how great that is for some reason, the meaning in it, the mythological brilliance of it all, the motivation of the heroes and the myths and so on, the paganism, the whatever, the Christian this, the Christian fascist right that Chris Hedges talks about. It's like, yeah, how are all those Christian cliques going to get together and really manage to be peaceful if all they want to do is have these kinds of culture wars? I get why people are pissed off at the woke left, but what's it going to be like when the right is pissed off at each other? Anyway, it's all what you grew up with and are familiar with, I guess. And then you can say, the Christian, as if it's one monolithic thing, like Western civilization. And I've said many times before, everything looks pretty westernized to me when I travel around the world. Yeah, there are profound differences across culture, but American goods and services and values and ideas and tropes, memes, institutions, ways of doing business, global businesses, Disneyland, big box stores, etc., etc., Amazon, Facebook. It's pretty much ubiquitous, right? So we're all pissed off at each other and we're all talking about Western civilization, and pretty much it's all about big business, folks. It's all about the cash, profits first. I keep saying that. I can't see why people can't see through it, Understand that there are right things that make sense in terms of politics and left things that make sense, and get out of the war zone. Start thinking things through. There are effective, proper ways of doing science that work, but when you mix it with ideology and politics, it gets all screwed up. But don't get mad at science, the scientific method, or institutions. Put the blame where it lay with ideologues who make money playing these games. If you have a niche like Ben Shapiro, I saw him talking with Matt Taibbi. You get your niche, you preach to the choir, you admit you're biased, and you stay on those talking points, and you're smart, you're reasonable, but you know where you make your money, you know how you butter your bread. I think Matt Taibbi's as honest or more honest than Ben Shapiro, but whatever, you're going to watch those people? Fine, if that's what you want to do. But we're just going to hang around until we get hit in the face with a shovel. None of us are going to do shit. And we don't know how to work together anymore. It'd be nice if friends came over and we all got together in a game bee way and put some farms together and media and all this kind of stuff. Did our businesses, supported each other, helped each other out. But these days it's just too much trouble to do that. It's too hard to come up with a consensus even with your best friend. Should we do this or that? I have a hard time every day deciding what I'm going to do. I got lots of things to do. What I need to do is, instead of getting disappointed with myself because I don't feel I'm doing exactly what I want to be doing, I should establish a routine, a schedule for myself that makes sense, and stick to it and be consistent about it. And within that routine, you can have some time to be a little chaotic and relaxed or creative, but you need that routine. And you need some form of structure and some value system and some belief system to help you so that you can work together with other people and accomplish things. If all of these institutions get more and more messy, we're in big trouble. And if our culture becomes more and more messy, we're in big trouble. So I don't know how we're going to solve it. I guess it's pretty boring to talk about it, isn't it? But anyway, this is a nice place here. I'm lucky. I'll go back to my coffee. Have a wonderful day or evening or whatever. Buliamti out. Oh, I also wanted to comment on the amount of materials we're going to be using around the world now on weapons. it's such a huge industry because NATO and the United States found out that they don't have a big stockpile of stuff to fight these conventional wars with, more or less powerful countries in terms of military capability, like Russia in Ukraine. So they gave all their stuff to to Ukraine to fight the Russians, and they're running out of stuff. So missiles and artillery units and ammunition and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, holy cow, we got to have a lot more supplies. We got to have more stuff and better stuff. So we're going to have to really, really print a lot of money to make this new stuff so that we can, fight somebody in the future like the Ruskies. Yeah, so that's another thing I wanted to say. I think the wind was bad back there. But all the materials we're going to have to use, to build better weapons and more weapons, because we're running out of weapons supporting Ukraine in a conventional war against Russia. So everybody realizes now that they need more weapons, better weapons, and so they're going to have to print a lot of money to make those weapons and stockpile those weapons. We're going to need more soldiers. We're going to need more of everything. So we're back in this long road to war, arms race thing again, and Cold War thing again. And just getting ready to figure out, do we need to fight first? Like Putin's thinking, well, they're not listening to me, so I've got to fight now while I can. Because if I wait another 2 years, I won't be able to fight them. Yeah, so we're running out of stuff. So we're going to spend shitloads of money on more stuff. And we're going to need more energy and more, copper and steel and fancy materials and so on, and computer chips to make these new weapons. And then Biden says he's going to do some infrastructure. Here's a little bit of money for infrastructure. What the hell are they going to build? The only thing they want to spend money on is infrastructure for big business. What are they really going to give the poor people? I mean, are they going to fix a road or a bridge or put in a new electrical grid, a smart grid or whatever? I doubt it. But they have trillions for weapons and for war. The same thing in Europe. We should have done all this stuff years ago, and we talked about it for years and never did anything about facilities for liquid natural gas and so on. We just didn't do shit until there's this war thing, and then we realize, oh God, we need it because we're dependent on Russia. Well, why not be interdependent rather than at war? But America didn't want to appease the Russians at all, especially since 2014. So it's been this long road to war. We've got to break Russia. So yeah, okay, great. Now we're having a scramble for what are we going to do about infrastructure, and the G7 talks about it. Who's going to benefit from any of this? You, me? I don't think so. Not much anyway, if at all. But we're going to have more weapons because, we might need to give Ukraine like thousands of tanks every day. Zelensky wants more stuff. And there isn't that much stuff in NATO and in America to give him. And then if we give him all our stuff, we don't have any stuff. It's just crazy. It's just like the arms race in the 19th and 20th centuries. And it's just all over again. History rhymes, Groundhog Day, all that stuff. And what do people get? Nothing. Their public housing just lights up like a match and people die. And nothing happens at the end of the day. Big business is never held accountable. They pay slap on the wrist fines, as the banks do. And the inflation, everybody's going to debate why there's inflation. People like Bill Maher are going to say because we gave money to people during COVID. But it's the players that siphoned off the trillions of dollars, did stock buybacks and benefited the most from the whole catastrophe, while all of us just run around chasing our tails and getting mad at the other guy because they're not like us. They're lefties or something, own the libs or whatever. They're fascists. It's absurd. It's absolutely madness. There's no infrastructure for us. Not for you, my friend. Not for you. But we'll see. If Europe just spends all of its money on weapons and manages to get anything done. Whereas China can build high-speed rails in a heartbeat all over the country and ports all over the world and do their Belt and Road thing without even sneezing. And the next thing we want to do is go to war with China. What's wrong? We're crazy. Okay, enough for now. So what we need to do is start our alt-sensible global party and talk about practical, sensible ways to solve problems that are in common across the whole ideological spectrum. So find those points of intersectionality points, and start talking about them, and see what kind of appetites people have for various kinds of approaches and solutions. But it's not going to happen through normal politics, because that's locked, as it always is. And usually these things just take time, and they're driven by technology, they're driven by markets, they're driven by profits, in financial incentives and so on. That's what pushes people to do things. We're all in a race for status, and we're going to tear down the other guy to build up our own status. Normal people, I don't think they'll ever have a chance. So you have to find the players, the big influencers, the hyper agents, and start pushing at them. Just get ready for war. Get ready to send your kids to the next war until the robots are killing everything. In the meantime, honestly, it's crazy. We're just continuing to cook the planet, so hopefully we can all be volunteer firefighters in the future.